Okay, since the entirety of the rest of the whole world are all talking about the coronavirus of 2019, why shouldn't we?
Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to become part of the Transplant Helper community.
Hey folks, welcome to Transplant Helper again today. My name is Jim Merle, and if you've been somewhere deeply embedded in the earth, maybe in a hibernation type state, having not seen the light of day in about a week and a half or 2 weeks, you've already heard something about the coronavirus of 2019. I say specifically the coronavirus of 2019 in order for us to understand this is just a new version of the same old thing. As a matter of fact, it's something that we've known about as in coronavirus now for a little over 50 some odd years. And the coronavirus basically typically rears its ugly head is nothing more than what we would consider the common cold. However, like with many viruses, bacteria, whatever that's floated around here for some time, there are obviously some mutations, some changes that happen that make it a little bit more dangerous and a little bit more severe. But don't misunderstand that the coronavirus is something that's brand new, that just popped up yesterday in China and is going to sweep across the whole earth and kill a whole human population. That's not what's going to happen here, okay? Basically, this is something we need to be concerned about, something we need to use caution with, and something we really need to look out for, but it's probably not going to be that big of a deal for us here in the United States. At least we hope that be the case. Okay, now if you'll look back basically across recent time, you might remember there have been 2 other coronavirus pandemic events that did occur, one being back in 2002, that was known as SARS, or the Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, another one being back in 2012, that was known as MERS, or the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, both of which in their places, like the Far East or China in SARS, or the Middle Eastern countries, in MERS, did cause a pretty big problem. And they did spread throughout the whole world where cases were reported all around the globe. However, we need to be aware back in those 2 cases with SARS as well as MERS, neither one of them killed anyone inside of the United States. I don't know why that is, other than we had a lot of warning that came out. We knew that these things were coming this way. We were better prepared, and we have pretty good health care as far as preventative / type of treatment type of care. Now, what sets this one apart right here, that is the 2019 version of the coronavirus, is one, it was originally assumed that it was only transmitted from animals to humans. And that's because the very first cases all came out in Wuhan, China, back a little bit over a month ago, and were all associated or directly related, so it seemed, to a particular fish / animal market, okay? And it seemed like everybody that got this new version of the coronavirus were directly exposed to some kind of fish or animal in that particular market. Now, since that time, just basically through observation, they have discovered that it's a little bit worse than that, and that is it can also be transmitted apparently from human to human. And like any virus, basically the transmission is all the same. It comes about because of some type of cough, some type of sneeze, some type of bodily fluid being exchanged from one person to another. Now, what makes this particularly dangerous in this case, if you want to say that, is that unlike some other colds, flus, or viruses, it takes quite a bit of time for them to become symptomatic. That is, you might be exposed to this or get it from someone else who's actually a carrier of it, and they have not even become symptomatic yet themselves, so therefore you will not be symptomatic. They've actually decided that you will not become symptomatic in this case until anywhere, look at this now, between 2 and as much as 14 days. And that's what kind of makes this a level up of dangerous or worrisome, and that is because I could actually have it right now, be exposing my entire family, all my friend group, everyone I'm around, and absolutely have no idea about it. Because again, the rate of becoming symptomatic is somewhere between 2 and 14 days. In addition to that, it has been confirmed already that the coronavirus 2019, the Wuhan, China version of it, can sustain itself on hard surfaces for upwards of 5+ days. So again, in a scenario, I can meet up with someone who has the virus, who's not symptomatic. They transfer the virus to me. I then in turn bring it home, put it on some hard surfaces in the house, turn around, leave the house again without making any contact with my family. And then because I left the remnants of that virus on those hard surfaces, they could become sick anyway. So we have to be very cautious about this. As a matter of fact, I've been scrolling and reading all day. I'm looking at it right now through the CDC's website and their observations and their precautions of it. And they basically tell us we've got to use general precautions like any other thing. As a matter of fact, I'll read to you right here what they list as their preventative measures. Number one, they say wash your hands thoroughly for at least 20 seconds with soap and water. They add to that, if there's absolutely no way you can get to soap and water, then an alcohol-based type of hand sanitizer may work. And I have to say may work because those things are kind of hit or miss, and that your best method is, again, soap and water for at least 20 seconds. In addition to that, they do suggest that you avoid at all costs touching the mouth, the eyes, or the nose with unwashed hands, okay? Because one of the things that's happening with this transmission, and again, it's very common among a lot of viruses, like, say, the flu, for example, the transmission is coming about because of any type of mucus type membrane type of thing, like even the eye itself can actually take this in and put it inside of the body. So we got to be very careful. If someone touches their nose, their mouth, rubs their eye, then in turn maybe shakes our hand or something, we could get it. Obviously, it can also be transmitted through coughs and sneezes, which the CDC has actually warned us, and this surprises me, but yeah, I guess it's right, that you can actually receive the spittle or the little particles from a cough up to 5 feet away, okay? So I like to tell people, get back, stay away when you're sick. Yeah, this is going to be one of those cases where it's much the same. Also, they add to that as a precaution to avoid close contact with sick people. Again, if you're a transplant patient like me, if someone walks up to me today and says, I'm not sick, but my wife is sick, that's good enough. You get away from me too. But always use caution, especially being around sick people. So if you have to go into clinics, go to the doctors for something, say, that's unrelated, yeah, try to avoid that at all costs right now until they really get a handle on what's going on here. In the next place, it says stay home if you're sick. And that's something I have to remind myself of often. And I pound on the heads of those that are around us, especially concerning me. I'm immunosuppressed like many of you, immunocompromised. Please, if you're sick, if you're symptomatic at all, stay home. I don't care what it is. Nobody wants what you got. Just stay home, okay? It's not worth, especially in a case like this where something potentially could become pandemic, it's not worth you going to work for a few dollars a day and then transmitting this from person to person to person to person. They also advise to always cover your cough and or sneeze with a tissue, and then when you finish that, throw that in the trash. And around my house, we call those snot rags, okay? Don't leave your nasty snot rag laying on the couch or laying in the seat of the car. Get rid of it, throw it away yourself, and then wash your hands for 20 seconds. And then they last add to these precautionary methods to be sure to clean and disinfect all frequently touched objects and surfaces. Things like kitchen countertops, doorknobs, forks and knives and plates and bowls and stuff you eat off of on a regular basis. I would even encourage you, if you've got access to a dishwasher, just kind of run those things through the dishwasher. Let them get that extremely hot water cycle going. Just sanitize as best you can. Of course, in this season, times like this anyway, things like Lysol, and I'm not sponsored by Lysol whatsoever, although if they want to send me a little money, I'll take it. But use something like Lysol. They claim to be able to kill 99% of colds and flus and viruses. Yeah, I don't know, but hey, spray it down. In this case, kind of what could it hurt? So if you are one of those people like I've been over the last few days and you're constantly checking out the media, getting the latest updates, that's fine and dandy. As a matter of fact, the CDC website here is being updated almost hourly on this case. But I would say don't really panic over this. Now, if you happen to live in Wuhan, China, yeah, you got a problem. There are upwards of 19, 20 million people in a closed, confined space. It's pretty dangerous in that case. If you live more like I do in a rural area of the United States, not as much worry because we just don't come in contact with that many people. Therefore, things like this don't typically tend to become pandemic and don't transfer as easily or as quickly. But by using these precautions, you can probably come out okay. Now, if I haven't mentioned it, I don't think I really did, symptomatically, they basically say this presents itself like most other viruses. There's going to be fevers, there's going to be coughing, sneezing, aching, that sort of thing. But again, remember, you can actually be exposed and be a carrier of this particular virus as much as 2 to 14 days before you become symptomatic. So just because you don't feel sick, if you've been exposed to someone that is sick, go ahead and take some precautions for yourself, and let's all try to stay safe. I hope this has helped you out in some way. I'm not trying to cause or add to any of the panic. As a matter of fact, I don't personally think we need to panic. I think we need to just go about our daily lives, But be cautious. 'Tis a season for colds and flus and viruses and sicknesses of all kinds going around. But be cautious and be sure that if any travel precautions apply to your area of the world, like in China, that you abide by them. Avoid large crowds, that sort of thing. Do the best you can. But until next time, I wish you all the best and stay stronger, friends.